Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Inspiring Hope. I'm your host, Lois Herman, here to bring messages of hope and joy to the world and celebrate people who are making a difference. And today I have a very special guest, a plant medicine expert with Trillium Botanicals. Anthony D'Alessandro is here to share with us plant medicine for balance, strength, and joy, among other things. So welcome, Anthony. Glad to have you here.
Hi, Lois. Really happy to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you do some pretty special things, special work, and I do use some of your products and love them. And
Mhm.
I encourage other people to explore the offerings that you have. So tell us a little bit about you, how you ended up in this situation where you are basically a biochemist using natural medicine to help people to heal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it wasn't planned. I'd say that the earliest seeds of it, or was in high school. Someone had given me a book of medicinal plants that you would have, or you could have in your garden or in your yard. And I was like, that's like the coolest thing in the world. And I'm also the youngest in my family. I have three older sisters. So I had nieces and nephews before, coming on while I was still quite young. And I remember sort of looking at, the use of antibiotics and then the use of pharmaceutical medications, and I was considering medical school, and that route of biology, and it didn't take me long to sort of suss out the fact that the pharmaceutical model, which does in fact run our medical system, is based on profits, and it's based on being able to protect what they use, and the only way they can do that is by mimicking nature, but then making an artificial version of
Right.
nature. And in my opinion, that's a dead end. It's a dead end road.
Well,
Uh,
also, correct me if I'm wrong, but the artificial versions also tend to have more side effects because they're
yes,
not
they do.
using the natural organic remedies. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they do in two main ways. So one would be that they're taking one molecule out of a plant, or a pine needle, or any an algae, any kind of natural substance. They're taking one molecule out of thousands that exist together,
Mm.
which is sort of make it sort of stupid. But then when they synthesize that molecule, sorry, they create what's called a stereoisomer. So that it's a fancy word for mirror image. And
Mm.
that mirror image, like, it looks the same. I mean, it's the same structure, all that, except it's flipped. And in biology, it's a real thing that some people call it the left version, the right version.
Okay.
Um, but that stereoisomer, the body doesn't know what to do with that because it's novel and it's foreign.
It's foreign. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So then we
So
build up resistance to these things. Our body, our intuitive, amazing body will
yeah,
fight because this is a foreign substance that's been
yeah.
introduced.
Yeah, it either gets stuck in places and causes problems, or your body has to get rid of it, and sometimes that can take a while.
Hmm.
And along during that time, it can cause side effects, and it can cause imbalances, and then even one small imbalance over time can result in multiple other larger imbalances, which is sort of the state that we call disease. You
Disease.
know?
That's right. Now you ended up getting a degree in biology and biological engineering.
Yes, yes. So I was
Yeah.
really good at science and math,
Okay.
and I went to Cornell for a dual degree, which was biology and biological engineering, which was like,
Okay.
sounded great and big and exciting. And um, I ended up focusing more on the biology because the engineering part was just so boring. Um, and that took me down a wonderful road. I mean, my life path has been going from the thing that interests me most to the next thing that interests me most, and the next most interesting thing, and that has led me to everything that I've done, and even now. So
That's
the
the way it should
biology,
be, Anthony. It should be. Instead of us forcing, we
yeah,
should follow our natural desires, our natural inclinations that keep life exciting and interesting.
yeah, it is the way that it should be. And
Yeah,
I was always shocked that, as a 17-year-old or even a 16-year-old, you're supposed to choose what you want to do based off of very little, right? So
correct. Yeah.
so yeah,
Yes.
it worked for me. I recommend it for everyone. It was definitely unorthodox, in terms of the family, in terms of, but that's who I was, and you can adopt that, and you sort of have to take the baggage of being different for reasons that are true, to you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I did a bunch of work in biology, a lot in wildlife conservation, which was amazing, and I wouldn't do it, I wouldn't do a thing differently. And fast forward to about 15 years ago, I was sort of reintroduced to cannabis, and what used to be called marijuana. And I knew on the face of it, I knew again really quickly that there was a tremendous amount of therapeutic value that this plant held,
Mhm.
because of the stories, the anecdotes, and the science. I mean, a lot of people don't think that there was any science or any scientific papers or any research on cannabis, until very recently. But that's incorrect, because out of Europe and out of Israel in particular, they've been doing fairly extensive and sophisticated research on cannabis since the 60s.
Mhm.
So, even then, people didn't know it, but there were thousands and thousands of articles. And if you, I mean, you read one after the other, and you're like, what? Like, how is this even possible? And then, why does no one know about this? Or why is it a Schedule One, controlled substance?
Right.
Because
Because it
plant,
might interfere with big pharma.
yeah, yeah. So that history is ripe. If someone wants to dig into those forces, if you will.
Hmm.
So that started this new ball rolling, because I saw an opportunity, because the plant compounds are so powerful, and not powerful in the sense that you get high or you get altered, or, and like really nothing like that. Their power lies in where they plug into our body systems.
Okay.
So I always mention to people um, that the plant produces at least a couple of compounds that our body produces naturally.
Mhm.
So that's sort of like, that's a lot of people's first like aha moment, like what, what does that mean? How's
So
that
we
possible?
produce what's called cannabinoids, right? Our body
Correct.
produces them. And
Yes.
based on our environmental toxic overload, does that affect how much our body produces? Because we're all hearing that our food is tainted. There's so many different toxic exposures that we're dealing with in this day and age. Does that affect the amount of cannabinoids that our body naturally produces?
Yes, it does.
Mm.
Yeah, that could be that could be one of the largest factors. The other sort of obvious ones, which are related, would be diet,
Mhm.
um, stress, chronic illness, which again, can go back to toxic.
Diet and
Yeah,
stress.
yeah, exactly. So it's all in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing, or the reason why the cannabinoids, that's the fancy term for this category of compounds from the cannabis plant. The reason that they're so powerful is because they run our regulatory system.
Okay.
So they discovered this in the 90s. It was the guys out of Israel, and they realized. I mean, they literally discovered a brand new system in our body that pretty much runs the show.
Ah,
And what I mean by that is this system is responsible for maintaining balance
okay.
throughout our entire body.
Mm,
So then it's like that's a second thing where people are like, what? Like what? And so if you're not producing enough of the compounds, if they're low for whatever reason, and you supplement with the oil from the plant, then it's like a key, going into a lock and unlocking the functioning of the system. And they, thank goodness, they named the system the endocannabinoid system, which
okay.
makes my life a lot easier because someone can just look it up and it's there and it has
Yeah,
cannabinoid in the name. And
right.
I'm not making, well, at this point,
So
12 years in, I don't.
it's akin to the endocrine system because
Mhm.
in coming from a medical background, we are taught about the different systems, the circulatory, skeletal, the endocrine system. So this is an endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, it is big.
So very interesting. So because the endocrine system runs the hormones, that generates the hormones throughout the body. Again,
Yeah.
another type of regulator, balancer. And I had read years ago that if you've had an upset, an imbalance situation, say an emotional imbalance in your life, if people who have developed cancer look back 18 months, cancer or some other life engaging, threatening dis-ease, if they
Mhm.
look back 18 months before, there is something that caused them to be out of balance, be it a divorce, be it a death, something that has happened to them that caused an extreme out of balance energy to the body that starts the body in this off balance system that ends up resulting in a diseased state.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So I think that's accurate. And that's how these things happen.
Mm.
So it's like you said, a shock. So, you can have a little imbalance and then your body will be able to right itself typically. Um, a little imbalance that continues can lead to other imbalances. So
Mm.
that can be, not a shock, but it can still be problematic. But a shock is a shock, and it in your body, parts of your body, like it almost goes into survival mode.
Right.
Um, and in survival mode, energy is taken away from certain parts of the body and certain processes, to survive,
Mhm.
and that can lead to all sorts of problems.
Sure.
So yeah, yeah, that's an accurate mechanism. Well, fortunately or not, it's good that we know about it. Um,
So it's as if the endocannabinoid system has been um, disengaged. So that's the system that
yes,
maintains our balance, which is
yes,
critical to health and vitality.
yeah, it is, and that's why most people hear that cannabis can help pain in your pinky toe, and cannabis can help Parkinson's disease, or it can help with cancer, or it can help with epilepsy, or it can help with wound heal, like all these things. So and after it doesn't take much for, and I'm one of the biggest skeptics. Like my level of discernment is high because I've been at this a long time, so I've been there.
Hmm.
But that often leads people to believe, oh, that can't be true. They're just saying that.
Hmm.
Once you understand the fundamental, like the foundational operation, the foundational value of the endocannabinoid system, it becomes apparent that cannabis can and does work on thousands of processes within the body,
Now
which is
you
like amazing.
you do blends. You blend the with other types of flowers. Like I love your holy oil that you make.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's magical. I
Yeah.
use it on my temples to sleep. I
Hmm.
sleep so soundly with this simple
Yeah.
little dot of holy oil that you've
Mhm.
created.
Yeah. So in my world of the formulations, so they're all plant compounds for the most part. If we talk about some of these specific ones, I do use gold and I use silver quite a bit. But for the category of the plant medicine, there's the cannabis, and then there's all the other traditional botanical, plants. And I remember very early on, I was thinking of imagery for this, and it was like cannabis was like the heralding angel, like with a staff, leading this entourage of like all the other plants that
Yeah.
we've known about. They've been passed down, generation to generation. But my my perception of the power again of cannabis and how it was coming into its own, like I had that image of her, being the leader.
Hmm.
So the formulations, most of the formulations have multiple cannabis components. So not to get too technical, but I'm able to separate out the different compounds. So most people are familiar with CBD,
Hmm.
THC, obviously. There's also CBG. There's also CBC.
Hmm.
There's also CBN. There's also CBDA. There's also CBGA. There's CBCA. There's THCV. There's CBDV. So, and a lot of this has just come in the past few years. So, I tell people I was on a call talking to a bunch of doctors at a center about a month or so ago, and I told them I feel like I'm a kid in a candy shop. Because each of these compounds is unique. And before they used to be rare because there's only so much that certain plants produced of that compound. But now, because the industry has evolved, there are people producing, like focusing on producing these rare compounds, and they have tremendous value. I mean, there are several that stimulate the growth of new neurons in your
Okay.
brain.
And,
Like
and that would
that
be
was that
beneficial for
that was not
Parkinson's.
that
And
no one even thought that was possible
wow.
10 years ago.
Hmm.
There are compounds that promote bone density and bone healing.
Wow.
There are some of these new compounds are appetite suppressants, and they turn on fat metabolism, and they
Good.
tone your metabolism. They increase your insulin sensitivity.
Wow.
So, diabetes comes up a lot in my clients. Um, the neurological degenerative diseases come up a lot because the cannabis has a very close relationship with brain function, and it plugs into the brain in very special ways. So it's everything. It,
Hmm.
it really is everything.
And yet it's unique. It's not just like one size fits all. It sounds as if different formularies are used to help different symptomatologies. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So that's sort of the state of the art, currently. When we started, we would make oil from the plants we grew, and we'd put it in a bottle, and we would dispense it, and it was mostly for pain, for people who were undergoing cancer treatment. It was popular for as an anti for nausea and to
Okay.
stimulate appetite. But early on, we really only, I really did have one formula.
Right.
Now I probably have 100
Wow.
because I work with people mostly one on one.
Mhm.
And every so often, there's a case where, and again, this is coupled with the some of the new compounds and the things we know about them. I'll make a custom formula for someone, and then that doesn't necessarily go on the shelf, but it goes on it goes in the notebook.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there's a few that I had mentioned to you. I mean, I can show you one example. So I'll give you this one here, which is called it's called the S27, and I named this the Master Balancer. So
Okay.
this is like a new version of the like if you could only have one, which one would it be? And it would be this one.
Okay.
And it's because it has all the compounds, every single compound that the plant produces in it.
I
And
see.
it also has a lot of the raw compounds in it. So most people aren't aware of the raw compounds that the cannabis plants produce, but they are, in my opinion, the most therapeutic in ways that we absolutely do not understand, but we can measure and we can see. And the easiest way to look at the raw compounds is, looking at the difference between, a beautiful garden salad that you make and are about to eat versus taking that beautiful garden salad and putting it in the microwave for 10 minutes. And then, so it's just the, raw versus cooked, basically. It
Sure.
really does. So there's so much in this bottle. If there was only one, this is the one. So
That's the magic potion, as it were. So I
yeah,
also, something that you and I spoke about the last time, and it was like after we finished the show, and I wanted to bring this up this time
yeah,
because you mentioned to me privately that there is a decided difference between ingesting the products and smoking the products.
yeah, yeah.
Smoking, what I remembered is that smoking might get you high. It doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily give you the therapeutic value
Yeah,
versus ingesting it. You might have a little high or a different type, but that is through the ingestion that the compounds work in the body
yeah,
better.
yeah. That's a
How would
great
you
point.
explain
You're
that?
100% right. So um, basically, so it's like the salad in the microwave again.
Okay. Yep.
So if you're, and it's traditional. Well, it's not even traditional to smoke. Going back 40,000 years, which is the probably the earliest evidence of people using cannabis, it was eaten.
Okay.
It wasn't smoked.
Hmm.
And smoking cannabis is actually not bad for you. Now that's like people are like, oh my God. It's nothing like smoking cigarettes, and it actually has a net benefit. Currently, if you look at all the studies, it actually has a net benefit on health. Even the smoke, even I mean on the lungs,
Hmm.
right? It's anti-cancer, it's anti-inflammatory. So I mean, even just knowing that should be like, what? Like really? So, but when you heat it up, you're activating some of the compounds that can only be activated that way, but you're also incinerating the other compounds,
I
the
see.
ones that were in the salad when the salad was nice and green.
Mm.
So I sort of joke, but it's actually not a joke. If someone has a joint, the best thing to do with that joint is to smoke a quarter of it and then eat eat the rest,
Mm.
which sounds ridiculous, but that is 100%
Put it in a
true.
brownie, bake it in a brownie, right?
Yeah, right.
Although
But the
that's
brownie,
also
so
cooking it.
yeah, right. Yeah, right. So no, right. So that's why I put in the I can put whatever I want in the bottle, right? So some of them are heated up, like THC and CBD. They have to be heated up,
Okay.
but the rest of them don't, and I can put any of them in the bottle in whatever ratio
Mm.
is necessary. So yeah, there's a big difference between um, a tincture that you take orally and then smoking the flower, which it is. Yeah.
So the tincture involves the leaves and roots and stem and everything are used for different. You use different parts of it for different reasons versus the
So
smoking is typically the leaves, correct?
yeah, so smoking's typically the flowers,
The
which look
flower.
like leaves.
I see.
They're like a modified leaf grouping,
Mm-hmm.
really. So when we extract the oil from the plants, it's from the flowers and some from the leaves,
Mm-hmm.
and actually there's some on the stalks as well.
Mm-hmm.
We don't currently use the roots, although I think that's probably coming,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it should be because I have heard that there is a lot of value there, but the oil itself comes from the what they call the aerial parts of the plant. Yeah.
Here's an odd question. Where did cannabis originate from? Is it indigenous to the Americas?
No, it actually it's between Ukraine. Let's see. Yeah, around the Ukraine and then to the east of the Ukraine. And I forget. I don't know
So
exactly. I used to remember the old name for it. I can't remember now, but like eastern Europe up toward
toward
that
Poland.
that
Okay.
that mountainous. There's a
Oh,
big
okay.
mountainous region there. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Interesting. Huh.
Yep.
So I'm sure that back then they probably chewed on the roots, and the indigenous people would use all parts of a plant for different purposes and reasons. Like our Native Americans, the
Hmm.
indigenous people used a lot of plant medicine. I mean, that's what they had. That's what they
Yeah.
used.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a part of what they knew. And as far as the cannabis plant goes, if you've ever seen one or had the pleasure of growing one, or even having some, in your hand or whatnot, they have a very distinct aroma. And the people said it was this skunky smell. So that's a general aroma that you get in most varieties. But if you get closer to the plant and you touch the leaf or the flower and you smell what the oil actually smells like, more divine than any flower
Mm,
that you've ever smelt or that any human being has ever smelt in the history
mm,
of time. So you're not gonna. They didn't miss it. They didn't walk by. They didn't walk by and not notice the cannabis
mm,
plant. I can assure you of that.
mm.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
that's the oil. That's where the magic is.
Hmm.
That's where the magic is.
Yeah, and you have topical that you can use for topical
Yep.
uses. There's
Yep.
this,
So
yours.
this is sort of the famous one. It's called the Relief and Recovery Roll On, and that is a roll on pop, which is
Okay.
a
Yep.
pretty good size because a lot of people have issues all over the place or large areas, and that's a perfect example of marrying the um, traditional cannabis compounds with the traditional botanical compounds.
Okay.
So that one has a very specific makeup on the cannabis side, which does include a lot of the raw compounds. And it also has the traditional botanicals like wintergreen and chamomile and ginger and bay, lavender, rosemary, clove, and helichrysum, which
Wow. And
is
that has a
pretty. Yeah,
smell.
it's a pretty good lineup, and it smells amazing. It smells
Yeah.
amazing, and that wasn't even on purpose because all those supporting botanicals I put in there for their own property,
Right.
for relieving pain, for helping cells regenerate,
Hmm.
anti-inflammatory, and that one does work like magic.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And is there a favorite one that you recommend for people who are under stress? There are a lot of people who are stressed these days. I know you have a product called Cinnamon Girl
Oh
that
yeah.
that's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
And it just tastes like cinnamon. It's a little spray that you spray,
Yeah.
and it is amazing. And just enough to take a little of the stress off. And
Hmm.
it's wonderful.
Yeah, so that I would say that stress is still huge. I mean,
Mm,
even more so now. I mean, the world seems completely crazy, and
yes.
probably because it is. I think we're going through a lot as a
Yes, we
as a
are.
as a people,
Mhm.
um, and the cannabis is great for that because as a balancer, it's a modulator. So if like your system's on high alert, it'll calm your system. And actually, if you're sort of low or lethargic, it'll actually bring up the level.
Mhm.
So Cinnamon Girl is a good example that does have a very calming, relaxing, and even if you take it in the evening, it's actually helpful for sleep.
Okay.
There's another one. The other one that comes to mind is called A4. So the letter A and the number four.
Mhm.
That's more of a daytime tincture that is also, excellent for focus and grounding and calming.
And you
So
also had mentioned about stimulating the brain for insight and spiritual growth and different compounds for that as well.
yeah, that's like a whole nother amazing side to this. Or maybe I should say facet because it's all, the same gem, so to speak. But
Sure.
think of physical medicine, we think of, mental medicine, if you will, energy medicine, and spiritual medicine, like for sure. Like that's been going on for a long time. So there's a lot of talk recently or the past few years using cannabis for this, and also some of the mushroom species.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually do a lot of work with those as well. And they're phenomenal in their own way, and they're actually amazing together. But the cannabis is known for activating the pineal gland and actually also helping to decalcify the pineal gland, which can happen over the course of someone's life if they're exposed to certain chemicals. I think the fluoride in the water is one of the,
Fluoride, aluminum.
and the aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it sort of goes to joy, which you had mentioned in the opening. And this is where all the compounds are good, but the one that will stand out is in the THC category, THCA, THCV, and those latter two are actually over the counter at this point, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's part and parcel of relaxation, but they elevate your mood. You'll laugh. You may laugh like a lot. You'll think about things a little differently, like,
Mm-hmm.
in a good way. You get very present, and using the compounds spiritually is probably one of the best ways and the best reasons to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all in the same bottle, right? So even if you're dealing with inflammation or pain or sleep or an allergy, the cannabis is amazing for calming autoimmune conditions. You have that overlay of feeling good,
Mm-hmm.
which is like fantastic and important.
Well, and feeling good helps the body to release the endorphins to
Yeah.
promote self-healing. And
Yeah.
so that's
And
another facet.
yeah, and actually dopamine, and I've learned this over the past few years through some specific cases, and I wasn't aware of it before, but dopamine itself plays a huge role in the functioning of the immune system,
Mm.
which is important. And if you can get your dopamine up
Right.
naturally,
Mm-hmm.
you have that going for you as well.
Sure. You
So
also
yeah,
mentioned, I'm
yeah,
sorry. You also
yeah.
mentioned that you've developed a probiotic. You have a special probiotic.
Yeah. So again, all this stuff, like I wasn't planning on this. This all came from the way I lived my life, and then starting to work with people who needed the cannabis medicine, and then marrying those, and then um, using my knowledge base and the experience with clients to help them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had an issue. It was a sinus infection that had to do with it was prompted by a wisdom tooth extraction that wasn't monitored properly. I'll say that. And I found a gentleman who became my mentor on probiotics, and his specialty was making live culture. He didn't call them that, but they were live culture probiotics.
Mm.
And that, I would say, it saved my life, but it felt like it at the time. So I worked with him for years, and I continued to develop. He's no longer with us, and I continue to develop this as a unique treatment category that I make and use. So again, this also comes in a bottle, and this one's called Pantheon Holy Water 9. So the 9 is because there's 9 strains of probiotic bacteria in there.
Okay.
It started with 4, and the 4 was miraculous. So for digestive issues and for strengthening your immune system in certain diseases, it can be a game changer. Like they're alive in the liquid, and that's very, very, and we won't get into that, but that is very different from a dried capsule.
Okay.
Even the dried capsule in the refrigerator.
Mm.
I'm sorry to say. But, the probiotics, the more the merrier. So don't throw yours out. I'm not, the more the merrier.
Mm.
If you haven't had a live culture one, you'll want to, because they can shift the balance or the strength, the level of your immune functioning
Wow.
very pretty quickly and effectively. Yeah,
So
so I think
much to learn. So much to learn. How do
yeah,
people, and we'll put in there, how do people get a hold of you? Your website is Trillium Botanicals with an
yes,
I-U-M, Trillium.
yes. So it's Trillium like the flower, and then
Yeah.
it's a dash botanicals
Okay.
.com. It'll come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a little questionnaire if someone wants to do that, check a few boxes, and I'll get in touch with you I'll let you know what I would recommend.
Sure.
You can send me an email. I'm on email all the time, and you can also call or text. And there are a number of products on the website under the reorder page. They don't have very many. They don't have any descriptions by design. Usually, I'll interact with someone first so that they know what would be best for them.
Sure.
But yeah, through the website, it's very easy to get in touch with me.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. This is fabulous, Anthony. Is there anything else, any last thoughts you'd like to share with people about what you've discovered or the work you do or how we can help save humanity from the insanity we're living in?
Yeah. I mean, sort of go within yourself, but also your world, like your outside world, you know? So I mean, I know that all the pharmaceutical medications can be substituted with natural alternatives.
Mhm.
And that's something I believe anyway. I have a high level of conviction. And you sort of couple that with what you had mentioned, Lois, about toxins around.
Mhm.
Um, the the medications aren't natural, so up to after a certain point, they can be having adverse
Sure.
effects. So yeah, just go. I used to kid to my nieces and my nephew, you know, don't do anything unnatural. And that's pretty good advice. So I'll leave you with that one.
Wonderful.
Don't do anything unnatural.
Embrace nature. Yes.
Embrace nature. Yeah,
Perfect.
right.
Thank you so much, Anthony.
You're
This was
you're
always,
you're
as
very
always,
welcome.
inspiring. Until
Yeah.
next time, everyone, look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day. God bless everyone. See you next time.